Towards the end of last year, I mentioned that I'll be doing a non-fiction reading challenge in 2020, but I think my ideas on what sorts of books I wanted to read were too specific. So while I intended to read 24 books, I ended up reading only 18. All of them are good books, but some are definitely more useful to world builders than others. So here's the ones I recommend. My top recommendation is the book that inspired a whole video, and it's The Wheel by Richard Bulliet, which I read to fill the science square. It's not only all the wheel facts and all the history facts that make the book very useful to world builders, but also the more abstract ideas about when and why new technologies get adopted or abandoned. All of those ideas could be used to do some very fruitful world building. The book I read to fill the animal square, of the minds, ended up inspiring a video as well, so I would recommend that one to anyone who likes having fun with speculative evolution. And Catching Fire, which I read for the food square, also has a lot of interesting discussion of evolution and could also be very useful for animal building. The book I read to fill the folklore square, The Inland Whale, is very useful as well. This one features stories from the native inhabitants of California, all very well retold and very pleasant to read. Very useful for getting your head into the folklore headspace, if you like coming up with folkloric explanations for why your fantasy world is the way it is. And if you need to get into the small rural community headspace, then I recommend Life in a Medieval Village, which I read for the Village Square, and A Midwife's Tale, which I read for the Bath Square. Both books paint a very detailed and colorful picture, with plenty of references to primary sources, and they will make you think very world-buildy thoughts about all the relationships connecting a village or a small town. Another really good book, and also my final recommendation, is Witchcraft, Oracles and Magic among the Azande, which I read for the Magic Square. It's an ethnography that was written 100 years ago, and it gives a fascinating description of the great importance of oracles in Azande culture, as well as presenting a conceptualization of witchcraft that is very different from the one I had been familiar with. I will definitely be stealing ideas from this book, and I suggest that you do so as well. My goals for next year include learning how to read Japanese, and finally getting into reading the works of Nahoko Uehashi, who is a professor of ethnology in addition to being a fairly prolific fantasy writer. I think you can see why I'm interested in her novels. And if you watch anime, then Serei no Moribito and Kemono no Soja Erin are based on her novels. So I guess I will do a report on that a year from now.